Versailles. Dirty secrets and sweet perfumes. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel Lived History and leave a like on the video. Versailles. When luxury hid a lack of hygiene. What happens when pomp meets the harsh reality of hygiene? At Versailles, the glittering elegance of the court clashed with habits that today would seem anything but regal. Members of the nobility, in fact, often cleaned themselves with cloths soaked in vinegar or alcohol, and bathing was a rare event, more the exception than the rule. Welcome to Versailles, the absolute symbol of the monarchical power of the Sun King, with its immense gardens, opulent rooms, and spectacular fountains. A masterpiece of art and architecture that represents one of the pinnacles of European magnificence. Yet behind the frescoed ceilings and gilded doors, there was a decidedly less brilliant side to life at court. The palace, however grandiose, was not equipped with modern sanitary facilities. Even the most luxurious rooms hid a very different reality. The chamber pots were a constant and indispensable presence, emptied every morning directly from the windows. A daily ritual that, we imagine, was not particularly pleasant. Even personal care left much to be desired. Personal hygiene was entrusted to rudimentary methods, such as the use of corncob leaves, far from today's standards of cleanliness. During the 17th and 18th centuries, there was a widespread belief that it was enough to wash your hands and face daily. A complete bath was rare, and when it did happen, it was often shared. The same water was used in succession, by the father and the sons, with obvious consequences in terms of cleanliness. Not even Louis XIV, the famous Sun King, was apparently a great fan of baths. According to legend, he immersed himself in water only twice in his entire life, preferring instead to use damp, perfumed cloths to clean himself. A gesture that, at the time, was considered sufficient to maintain a dignified appearance. To combat bad smells, the court found an alternative remedy: perfume. The art of perfumery experienced a real boom in Versailles. Floral essences, exotic spices, and musks were combined to create intense and persistent fragrances. Applied not only to the skin, but also to clothes and even furniture. More than a whim, perfume was a necessity to cover the unpleasant odors that permeated the rooms of the palace. Even wigs, a symbol of status and refinement, hid poor hygiene. Washing one's hair was complicated and infrequent, so these elaborate hairstyles became the ideal means to hide dirt and lice. Decorated with feathers, ribbons, and pearls, they were often infested with dust and parasites. To combat this problem, scented powders were used, and wigs were stored in special wooden boxes. Hygiene problems were not limited to private spaces, however. Even the common areas of the palace were often neglected. Despite the beauty of the gardens and fountains, the internal courtyards and streets were dirty and smelly. The rooms, although decorated with precious furnishings and fine fabrics, were difficult to clean, and dust accumulated easily. Insect infestations were a constant worry. To make matters worse, it is said that Louis XIV, afflicted by various health problems, lived surrounded by numerous dogs. Their excretions, often ignored, contributed to the degradation of the royal rooms and corridors. This hidden side of life at Versailles contrasts sharply with the idealized image that is often held of the court. Behind the magnificence, there was a world of compromises, questionable habits, and makeshift solutions, in an era when the very idea of hygiene was still in its infancy. That's all for today. Let me know what you think about hygiene in the Palace of Versailles, and let me know what you would like to see in future videos. Subscribe to the channel Lived History. See you next time. Bye.